The freezing Chicago rain followed Emma Carter all the way to the church. She had just arrived from the billionaire's mansion, still wearing her faded blue Maid uniform, with her wedding dress sealed inside a garment bag. She had not even reached the dressing room when the church doors opened behind her. Ryan Blake walked in, holding hands with Madison Reed, Emma's fiancé and the best friend who had betrayed her inside the house Emma had spent 6 years working to buy. Madison looked at Emma's stained uniform and laughed.
Did you really think changing into a white dress would make him choose a servant?
Before Emma could answer, Madison lifted a glass of red wine and threw it directly at her face. But the wine never touched Emma. A man stepped between them and raised his arm. The red liquid splashed across the white cuff and expensive suit of Adrian Whitmore, Emma's cold and powerful billionaire employer. The entire church fell silent. Emma's terminally ill father was watching from his wheelchair, unaware that the groom he had waited months to meet had cheated on his daughter, and that the billionaire protecting her was only pretending to take Ryan's place. The cruelest part was that Ryan had not come to apologize. He and Madison had come to humiliate Emma publicly, expose her fake groom, and destroy the final dream keeping her father alive. Yet the man who was supposed to be part of a desperate lie was about to defend her, as though losing her would destroy him. Before we return to the night that started everything, subscribe and stay with this story, because what Adrian did after that glass was thrown changed 4 lives forever. Emma Carter was 29, exhausted, loyal, and nearly invisible inside Adrian Whitmore's enormous mansion. She had sacrificed vacations, relationships, and every spare dollar to care for her sick father and purchase a modest home. 24 hours before her wedding, she walked into that home and found her fiancé in bed with her best friend. With no groom, no money, and almost no time, Emma made one desperate phone call, never realizing the billionaire standing outside the kitchen had heard every word. But to understand why Emma Carter made that desperate call and why Adrian Whitmore chose to answer it, we have to return to the afternoon before the wedding, when Emma still believed betrayal was something that happened to other women. The November wind swept through Chicago like broken glass. By 6 that morning, Emma had polished the marble staircase, prepared breakfast, and checked every room in the Whitmore mansion. Outside, freezing rain struck the windows. Inside, everything gleamed with the cold perfection Adrian demanded. Emma had worked there for nearly 6 years. She knew how Adrian took his coffee, which flowers triggered his allergies, and how to leave a room before he entered it. In a mansion filled with expensive art and silence, being invisible had always felt safer. That morning, the head housekeeper sent her home early. "You're getting married tomorrow," Mrs. Turner said. "Let someone else finish for once." Emma almost laughed. Rest had become unfamiliar. Every extra shift had paid a medical bill or brought her closer to owning the small 2-bedroom house in Oaklawn. That house was proof of everything she had sacrificed. Emma saved the down payment while working weekends at a diner. She painted the walls, repaired damaged floors, and once spent an entire winter without proper heat so she could afford a new furnace. It was not luxurious, but it belonged to her. After the wedding, she planned to move her father, Thomas, into the 2nd bedroom. His lung cancer had advanced quickly, and the doctors no longer spoke in years. They spoke in months. Thomas tried to hide his fear behind weak smiles and old jokes, but Emma knew what kept him fighting. He wanted to see his daughter married before he died. On her way home, Emma stopped at the rehabilitation center to collect the navy tie Thomas would wear at the ceremony. "He practiced standing again this morning," a nurse told her. "He wants to walk you part way down the aisle. He shouldn't push himself." The nurse smiled gently. "He said he's waited 29 years for this." Those words followed Emma all the way home. When she turned onto her quiet street, Madison Reed's silver SUV was parked behind the house. Madison was her maid of honor, her closest friend, and the person Emma trusted with every private detail of the wedding. Emma assumed she had come early to help organize the dress. She entered carrying groceries, her father's tie, and a framed family photograph she planned to place near the guest book. "Madison?" No answer. Then laughter drifted from upstairs. It was followed by a man's voice Emma knew instantly. "Ryan." She stopped at the bottom of the stairs. For one foolish second, she told herself they were discussing the wedding. Perhaps Madison had brought Ryan a surprise. Perhaps the bedroom door was closed because her wedding dress was inside. Then Ryan said, "She'll never find out before tomorrow." Madison laughed again. The grocery bag slipped from Emma's hand. An apple rolled across the hardwood floor and struck the wall. Upstairs, the voices stopped. Emma climbed slowly. Each step felt disconnected from her body, as though someone else were forcing her toward a truth she was not ready to see. The bedroom door was partly open. She pushed it wider. Ryan stood beside the bed, pulling on his shirt. Madison was wrapped in Emma's cream-colored robe, the one Thomas had given her for Christmas. The room smelled of Madison's perfume and the candles Emma had bought for her wedding night. The framed photograph fell from Emma's fingers. Glass shattered across the floor. Ryan looked annoyed before he looked ashamed. "You weren't supposed to be home yet." The sentence hurt more than an apology ever could. Emma stared at him. "How long?" Madison tightened the robe around herself. 8 months. 8 months. While Madison helped Emma choose invitations, while Ryan visited Thomas and promised to take care of his daughter, while Emma worked extra shifts to pay for a wedding neither of them respected. "Tomorrow was our wedding," Emma whispered. Ryan buttoned his shirt without looking at her. "And it still would have happened if you hadn't walked in." That answer told Emma everything. He had planned to marry her, move permanently into the house she had paid for, and continue sleeping with her best friend. Madison looked around the bedroom and smiled. "You were always too busy cleaning a billionaire's mansion to notice what was happening in your own home." Emma crossed the room and ripped the robe from Madison's shoulders, forcing her to grab a blanket from the bed. "Get out." Ryan stepped forward. "Don't be dramatic. This is my house. I've lived here for almost 2 years. You can't throw me out like I'm nothing. I bought this house. I paid every mortgage payment." Ryan's expression hardened. He admitted that he had never respected her work. He hated telling his co-workers that his fiancée cleaned another man's home. He said Madison understood ambition, appearance, and the kind of life he deserved. Then Madison delivered the cruelest truth. "Ryan was going to marry you for the house and your savings. You made it easy because you were so desperate to give your father a perfect ending." Emma slowly removed her engagement ring. For months, she had looked at it as a promise. Now it looked like evidence of a crime she had been too trusting to recognize. She placed it on the dresser. "Both of you leave. Now." Ryan grabbed his jacket. At the bedroom door, he turned toward her with a coldness Emma had never seen before. "Don't cancel the wedding yet. Madison and I might come." Emma said nothing. Ryan smiled. "Your family deserves to know why the groom chose someone else." After the front door slammed, Emma stood alone in the bedroom she had built with years of exhaustion. Her wedding dress hung untouched inside the closet. The broken photograph lay at her feet. A dark stain from the spilled groceries spread across the kitchen floor downstairs, but Emma could not make herself move. Then her phone rang. Thomas's name appeared on the screen. Emma answered before the second ring. Her father sounded weak, but happier than he had in weeks. He told her that he had managed 7 steps with his walker. He asked whether Ryan was nervous and said tomorrow would be the happiest day he had left. Emma pressed one hand over her mouth to keep him from hearing her cry. "Everything is fine, Dad," she whispered. "You just rest." Thomas laughed softly. "I can rest after I see my little girl become a bride." When the call ended, Emma lowered the phone and finally allowed the tears to fall. A new message appeared on the screen. It was from Ryan. "Tomorrow, Madison and I are coming. Let's see how long your dying father keeps smiling when he learns no man wanted to marry you." Emma stared at the words until they blurred. She had less than 24 hours to find another groom or destroy the final dream keeping her father alive. Ryan's message remained on Emma's screen until the words blurred. She stood alone in the dark kitchen while rain struck the windows. Less than 24 hours remained before the ceremony. The church was paid for, the food was prepared, and relatives were already driving toward Chicago. Somewhere across town, Thomas was practicing how to stand beside his daughter despite the cancer weakening his body. Canceling should have been the obvious choice. But every time Emma imagined telling him the truth, she heard his tired voice saying he could rest after seeing her become a bride. She knew she could not protect him forever. She only wanted to protect one final day. Emma called the only unmarried man she trusted enough to ask. Caleb Moore had worked with her at a diner years earlier. He listened as she explained that she needed someone to stand beside her during a symbolic ceremony. There would be no marriage license and no legal vows, only a believable story for a few hours. "I'm engaged now," Caleb said gently. "My fiancé would never understand." Emma apologized and ended the call. By midnight, she had contacted professional companions, local actors, and men who advertised themselves as dates for family events. One agency demanded $8,000 plus travel and rehearsal time. Emma had less than $800 left. Her next paycheck was already divided between Thomas's medication, property taxes, and household bills. "Could you lower the price?" she asked. "For tomorrow?" The woman replied. "No, it isn't a legal wedding. That makes it riskier. Our contractor would be helping deceive a terminally ill parent." One final service asked whether the real groom might appear. Emma thought of Ryan's threat. Yes, no responsible person will accept that job. At 2 a.m, Emma called Reverend Collins. She said the legal wedding could not happen and asked whether the gathering could become a private blessing without signing a marriage certificate. "I cannot pronounce two people married if they are not making that commitment," he said. "But I can offer a prayer for your family." "Would my father know?" "That depends on what you tell him. I'm trying to protect him." Protection and deception sometimes wear the same face, Emma. Before dawn, Emma put on her faded blue uniform and drove back to the Whitmore estate. Mrs. Turner found her in the pantry. "Why are you here?" "Your wedding is tomorrow." "I changed my plans." The older woman studied her face, but Emma turned away. Adrian Whitmore came downstairs at 7:20, speaking on the phone about a hotel acquisition. He crossed the breakfast room, then stopped. His coffee had been placed on the wrong side of the newspaper. It was a tiny mistake, but Emma had never made it before. Adrian ended the call. "Are you sick?" "No, sir." "Then why are you working today?" "I needed to finish a few things." His gaze stayed on her. Adrian had built an empire by noticing hesitation and silences that arrived too late. Emma lowered her eyes and left. At last, Emma stood in the service kitchen and made one final call. "I can pay $800 today," she whispered. "You only need to stay until my father leaves." The agent laughed. "What if the real groom appears?" Emma said nothing. "No, that sounds like a lawsuit. Please. My father is very sick. I'm sorry." The line went dead. Emma did not hear the kitchen door open behind her. Adrian had returned for a contract left in his study. He should have continued upstairs. His employees' private lives were not his concern. Then Emma lowered the phone and whispered, "I only need someone to stand there long enough for him to believe I'll be okay." "Who needs to believe that?" Emma spun around. "Mr. Whitmore, I'm sorry. I shouldn't make personal calls during work." "That was not my question." "You offered someone $800 to pretend to marry you tomorrow." Color drained from her face. Adrian closed the door so the staff could not overhear. "Sit down." "I'm fine." "You're shaking." Emma sat at the small table. "Where is Ryan?" Adrian asked. The name broke the last of her control. Emma told him the truth. Ryan had betrayed her with Madison. The legal wedding was over. Thomas knew nothing. She wanted to turn the ceremony into a blessing so her father could experience the day he had fought to live long enough to see. "So you intend to stage a wedding," Adrian said. "No license, no legal vows, and afterward, I'll tell Dad we separated. You think that will hurt less?" "No." Her voice cracked. "I think he may be strong enough to survive the truth later." Adrian looked away. Years earlier, his mother had called him during the final week of her life. He had been negotiating a merger in London and promised to return when the documents were signed. By the time his plane landed, she was gone. He later donated a hospital wing in her name. It did not buy him one more conversation. Emma mistook his silence for judgment. "I know lying is wrong," she said, "but yesterday my father could barely stand, and he still practiced walking because he didn't want me to remember him in a wheelchair." Adrian returned his attention to her. "Why did Ryan leave?" "He didn't leave. I found him in my house with Madison." "The house you bought?" "Yes." She showed him Ryan's message. Adrian read it once. His jaw tightened. Cancel the ceremony. I can't. You can. You are choosing not to. Yes. Emma finally met his eyes. My father has lost his health, his job, and his independence. I wanted him to keep one thing, a false memory. A peaceful one. Emma picked up her phone. I'll keep looking. For someone affordable? Yes. No respectable man would accept this with only hours to prepare. Any man demanding cash from a desperate woman should not be placed beside your father. What else am I supposed to do? Adrian answered before caution could stop him. I'll go. Emma stared at him. What? I will attend the ceremony with you. As my employer? As the man you could not hire. She stood so quickly the chair struck the wall. No. Few people refused Adrian that fast. You spent all night asking strangers. You are Adrian Whitmore. My family may recognize your name. Then we keep the explanation simple. They will never believe a billionaire is marrying his housekeeper. Adrian's voice lowered. Do you believe that? Emma could not answer. This could hurt your company. My board survives worse things before breakfast. Why would you do this? Adrian gave her the truth. My mother died waiting for me to come home. I believed I had more time. I didn't. Emma's expression softened. I'm sorry. I cannot give you back the man you trusted, but I can make sure he does not control your father's final memory. Emma slowly sat again. If we do this, there must be rules. Good. I prefer rules. No license, no legal vows, no money from my house, the wedding, or my father's treatment. Agreed. No touching unless we discuss it. No kissing to convince people. We answer only what we prepare. When the ceremony ends, I return to work, and you return to your life. Something about the final sentence sounded colder than it should have, but Adrian nodded. And if the truth comes out, you cannot claim I manipulated you. This is my decision. I will say that publicly if necessary. She searched his face for pity or a hidden price and found neither. Adrian opened the notebook beside the telephone. We need a believable history. For the next 2 hours, the billionaire and the housekeeper created a relationship that had never existed. They agreed that Adrian had noticed Emma after she stayed late during a snowstorm. They supposedly began speaking outside work 4 months earlier and kept the relationship private because Emma feared gossip and Adrian disliked publicity. What does your father like? Adrian asked. Baseball, the Cubs, even when they disappoint him. Old engines, black coffee he is no longer allowed to drink. He thinks a handshake reveals a man's character. Does he know what I do? He believes you work in hotels. That is technically true. He does not need to know how many. In return, Adrian told her enough about himself to make the lie possible. He was 38, had no siblings, disliked crowded rooms, and had not taken a vacation in 7 years. His favorite meal was grilled cheese and tomato soup because his mother used to make it during Chicago winters. I thought you hated tomato soup, Emma said. I hate the version my chef makes. For the first time since entering her bedroom, Emma smiled. Then her phone vibrated. Madison had sent a photograph from Emma's house. She was wearing the bridal veil, while Ryan held her from behind. The message read, Enjoy pretending tomorrow. We are coming to show everyone who Ryan really chose. Emma's face went pale. Adrian read the message only after asking permission. We can still cancel, he said. Emma looked toward the rain-covered window. For one moment, she seemed ready to surrender. Then she straightened her shoulders. They already took the man I thought I was marrying. They do not get to take my father's last good day. Adrian closed the notebook. Then we leave in 1 hour. Emma looked down at her uniform. I still need my dress. We'll stop at your house. And you need a suit. I own one. You own hundreds. Then we have solved our easiest problem. At the kitchen door, Emma stopped. Mr. Whitmore, tomorrow I cannot be your employee. Adrian met her gaze. No, tomorrow you are the woman I chose to stand beside. Neither understood why the words sounded less like part of a plan and more like a promise. Outside, freezing rain continued to fall across Chicago as Emma carried her wedding dress toward Adrian's car. She did not know that Ryan and Madison had already decided humiliation would not be enough. They were preparing to expose the false groom in front of Thomas, the church. and every person Emma had ever tried to make proud. The moment Emma placed her wedding dress in the back seat of Adrian's car, the plan stopped feeling like an idea and began to feel dangerously real. The black sedan moved away from the Whitmore estate into the gray Chicago morning. Freezing rain blurred the skyline. Emma sat rigidly beside Adrian, both hands locked around her purse. For 6 years, she had ridden in luxury cars only when carrying flowers, groceries, or dry cleaning for the Whitmore family. Sitting in the passenger seat felt almost improper. "You can breathe," Adrian said. "I am breathing. Not enough to stay conscious." Emma released a nervous breath. "We need to review my family. My father is Thomas Carter. He worked as a mechanic for 38 years. He loves the Cubs, drinks black coffee even though his doctors banned it, and believes a man's handshake reveals his character. What does he know about me? That you work in hotels. Technically accurate. He does not need to know how many you own." A faint smile crossed Adrian's face. Emma explained that her younger sister, Claire, was handling the flowers. Her uncle talked too much. Her aunt could detect a weak story before dessert. The more perfect we sound, the less believable we will be. Then we should not sound perfect. They agreed to say their relationship had grown slowly after Adrian noticed Emma working late during a winter storm. He offered her a ride home. She refused twice before accepting. Their first dinner supposedly happened at a small Italian restaurant. "What did I order?" Adrian asked. "Steak. At an Italian restaurant? You look like a man who orders steak everywhere." That may be the most convincing detail we have. The farther they traveled from the mansion, the easier it became to speak honestly. Emma admitted she had ignored warning signs with Ryan. He mocked her uniform, complained when she sent money to Thomas, and never contributed to repairs on the house. "I thought marriage would make him responsible. Marriage does not repair character." Adrian then revealed that he had once been engaged. The woman sold private company information to a competitor, then blamed him for loving business more than her. "Did you?" Emma asked. "At the time, probably." It was the first answer he gave that sounded less like an executive and more like a man who had already judged himself. They stopped briefly at a diner. Adrian ordered grilled cheese and tomato soup. "You told me you hated tomato soup." "I hate expensive tomato soup. This tastes like somebody's mother made it." For a few minutes, they were not employer and employee. They were two tired people, memorizing a love story that had never happened. Outside, Emma returned a missed call from Thomas. He sounded breathless but excited. He had arrived at the church wearing the navy tie she had chosen. "I'm ready whenever you are, sweetheart. We're almost there." "They?" Emma looked at Adrian. "Yes, Dad. We." At the church, Claire rushed through the side entrance and froze when she saw Adrian. Emma introduced him as the man she had told their father about. Claire was confused, but one look at Emma's face kept her silent. Thomas waited near the sanctuary, seated in his wheelchair with an oxygen tube beneath his nose. His suit hung loosely from his shoulders. Even so, when Emma entered, he tried to stand. She hurried to him. "Dad, please, I need to practice." "You have practiced enough." Thomas looked toward Adrian. "So you are the man keeping my daughter's secrets." Adrian lowered himself so Thomas would not have to lift his head. "Adrian Whitmore, sir." Thomas held out his hand. The handshake lasted several seconds. Finally, he smiled. "Strong grip. No squeezing. Good start." Thomas asked whether Adrian understood how hard Emma worked. Adrian answered without using anything they had rehearsed. "She is the most dependable person I have ever known. People mistake quiet strength for something ordinary until the day they need it." Emma looked at him sharply. The words were too sincere to belong to their false relationship. Thomas removed an old silver pocket watch from his jacket. "I planned to give this to Ryan. Today, I want you to hold it." Adrian hesitated. "I have not earned that." "Then carry it until you do." Adrian accepted the watch with both hands. As Claire helped Thomas prepare, Emma's phone vibrated. A bank alert appeared. A home equity loan application had been submitted, using her property as collateral. Emma stared at the amount, $120,000. She had never applied for any loan. Before she could open the details, the organ began to play. Claire hurried toward her, saying the guests were waiting. Emma slipped the phone into her purse. There was no time to understand what she had seen. Thomas took her arm. Adrian waited at the front of the sanctuary beneath white flowers and warm candlelight. For one impossible moment, Emma forgot the ceremony was false. Then the church doors crashed open. Ryan stood in the entrance wearing the suit Emma had bought for him. Madison clung to his arm in a bright red dress, smiling as though the day belonged to her. Ryan looked directly at Emma. "Before she makes promises to a fake groom," he announced, "everyone deserves to know what kind of woman the bride really is." Ryan's accusation cut through the church before the final note of the organ. Every guest turned toward the entrance. Some recognized him immediately from the engagement photographs. Others stared at Madison's hand wrapped around his arm and understood enough without being told. Emma remained beside her father near the center aisle. In the rush of the morning, she had not yet changed out of her faded blue maid's uniform. Her wedding dress still hung inside the garment bag in the small dressing room behind the sanctuary. Only a few minutes earlier, the uniform had embarrassed her. Now it felt like armor. Thomas tightened his fingers around her arm. "Emma," he whispered, "what is he talking about?" She wanted to answer him, but Ryan had already started walking down the aisle. Madison followed at his side in a fitted red dress that seemed chosen to draw every eye in the room. She did not look guilty. She looked triumphant. Ryan stopped several feet from Emma. "You should tell them," he said. "Tell everyone how quickly you replaced me." A low murmur spread across the pews. Emma's younger sister, Claire, stepped forward. "You have no right to come in here." "I was supposed to be the groom," Ryan replied. "I have every right to explain why I walked away." Emma felt Adrian move from the front of the sanctuary. He came down the steps calmly and stopped beside her, not in front of her. It mattered. He was giving her the choice to speak. Ryan looked Adrian over, then laughed. "So this is the replacement? Your billionaire boss?" The word boss traveled through the room, like an electric current. Several guests exchanged startled looks. Thomas turned toward Emma, confused. "You work for him?" "Yes," Emma said quietly. Ryan raised his voice. "She cleans his house. Yesterday she was engaged to me. Today she brings him here and expects everyone to believe they are in love." "That is enough," Adrian said. His voice was not loud, but the room obeyed it. Ryan's smile widened. "Of course you want me quiet. A man like you can buy silence whenever it becomes inconvenient." Adrian did not react to the insult. Emma did. She released her father's arm and faced Ryan fully. "You did not walk away." Ryan's expression shifted. Emma continued, before fear could stop her. "I came home yesterday and found you in my bedroom with Madison." Gasps broke through the church. Madison rolled her eyes. "There are two sides to every story." "You were wearing my robe. That does not prove anything." Emma took out her phone. Her hand shook, but she opened the photograph she had taken after dropping the groceries. Ryan stood beside the bed with his shirt unbuttoned. Madison was wrapped in Emma's robe. The time and location appeared beneath the image. Claire covered her mouth. Thomas stared at the screen, then at Ryan. "You came to my treatment center," he said faintly. "You looked me in the eye." Ryan shifted his weight. "This is not what it looks like." "It is exactly what it looks like," Emma said. Madison stepped forward. "Ryan had been unhappy for months. You were never there, Emma. You were always working, always taking care of your father, always acting like suffering made you better than everyone else." Emma looked at the woman she had once called her sister. "I gave you a key to my house, and you gave Ryan nothing but bills and excuses. I paid those bills." "Yes, because that is all you know how to do," Madison's voice sharpened. "Work, clean, sacrifice, then expect everyone to worship you for it." Ryan placed a hand on Madison's back as if comforting her. That small gesture hurt Emma more than she expected. He had rarely touched Emma with such public tenderness. "You humiliated me for years," Ryan said. "Every time someone asked what you did, I had to tell them my fiancé was a housekeeper. Thomas tried to rise from his wheelchair. My daughter worked because I got sick. Dad, please stay seated." "She kept a roof over my head," Thomas said, his voice growing weaker but firmer. "She paid for medicine when I could not pay for groceries." Ryan looked away. "Madison did not." "She still lied to all of you," Madison announced. That man is not her fiancé. He is her employer. She brought a billionaire here because she could not accept that Ryan chose me. The guests began whispering again. Emma felt the shame she had feared since the night before. It moved through her slowly, pressing against her lungs. Adrian leaned closer. "Do you want to leave?" She looked at him. He was not asking because he wanted to escape the scandal. He was offering her a way out. Emma glanced at Thomas. His face had gone pale, but his eyes remained fixed on her. If she ran, Ryan would own the story. "No," she said. Then Emma walked into the open space at the center of the church. "You are right about one thing," she told Madison. "Adrian was not supposed to be standing here today." Ryan smiled as if he had won. Emma continued, "But neither were you." The smile disappeared. "You were supposed to stand beside me as my maid of honor. You helped me choose the flowers. You sat at my kitchen table and listened, while I worried about my father surviving long enough to attend this ceremony." Madison folded her arms. And all that time you were sleeping with the man I planned to marry." No one moved. Emma turned toward Ryan. "You lived in the house I bought. You ate food I paid for. You told my father you would take care of me after he was gone. Then you used the hours I spent working to betray me under my own roof." Ryan's face reddened. "You think buying a house makes you a saint?" "No, but it makes the house mine. Not everything is as simple as you think." The warning in his voice was subtle, but Emma heard it. Before she could ask what he meant, Madison laughed. "You still do not understand, do you? Ryan did not leave you because of me. He left because he was tired of pretending a woman in a maid's uniform could ever be enough for him." Madison picked up a glass of red wine from the reception table near the aisle. The gesture seemed casual at first. She raised it as though proposing a toast. "To Emma," she said, "the woman who spent 6 years cleaning a rich man's house and somehow convinced herself that standing beside him for one day would make her equal." "Put the glass down," Claire warned. Madison ignored her. She stepped closer to Emma. "You can change into a white dress, but everyone here will still know what you are." Then she threw the wine. Emma barely saw Madison's hand move. Adrien did. He stepped between them and lifted his arm across Emma's face. The red wine struck his hand, soaked through the white cuff of his shirt, and splashed across the front of his dark suit. A few drops landed on the floor. None touched Emma. The church became completely silent. Adrien slowly lowered his arm. Wine ran from his fingers. He looked at Madison with a calmness more frightening than anger. "You wanted everyone to see who she is," he said. "Instead, you showed them who you are." Madison's confidence flickered. "It was only wine." "No," Adrien replied. "It was the only argument you had left after the truth failed to humiliate her." Ryan moved toward him. "You do not get to speak to her like that." Adrien turned. "And you do not get to defend the woman you used to betray your fiancé after remaining silent while she attacked Emma." Ryan stopped inches away. "You think money makes you dangerous?" "No, restraint does." 2 church staff members approached, but Emma raised her hand. "Wait." She walked past Adrien and stood in front of Ryan. From her pocket, she removed the engagement ring she had taken from the dresser. She had brought it because some part of her had not known what to do with it. Now she did. She placed it on the small table beside Madison's wine glass. "You told me you might come today so my family could see why the groom chose someone else," Emma said. "But you did not choose Madison. You chose dishonesty because it was easier than becoming a decent man." Ryan scoffed. "You replaced me overnight." "No, you removed yourself from my life 8 months ago. I only discovered it yesterday." She looked at Madison. "And you were not better than me because he chose you. You were simply willing to accept a man who needed lies to feel powerful." Madison lunged toward Emma, but Adrien shifted 1 step closer. He did not touch her. He did not need to. Ryan grabbed the ring. "You will regret this." "The only thing I regret is believing you. You think you can throw me out of that house and walk away? I already did." Ryan's eyes hardened. "That house may not belong to you much longer." Emma froze. The bank alert flashed through her mind. "What did you do?" Ryan said nothing. "What did you do with my house?" Madison looked away too quickly. Emma stepped forward. You had access to my files. You knew where I kept the deed and tax records. Ryan slipped the ring into his pocket. You should have paid more attention to your own life. Before Emma could reach him, Thomas made a terrible choking sound behind her. She turned. Her father's hand had fallen from the arm of the wheelchair. His face had gone gray. "Dad?" Thomas tried to answer, but his body folded forward. Emma ran to him. Claire screamed for someone to call 911. Adrian was already on the phone, giving the dispatcher the church address and describing Thomas's symptoms. Emma knelt beside the wheelchair. "Dad, look at me. Please look at me." Thomas's eyes opened briefly. "I'm sorry," Emma sobbed. "I should have told you." His lips moved, but no sound came. Within minutes, paramedics rushed into the church. They placed an oxygen mask over Thomas's face and transferred him onto a stretcher. Ryan and Madison remained near the entrance. Adrian turned to the church security volunteers. "Remove them." Ryan tried to protest. "This is a family matter." "No," Claire said through her tears. "You made sure you were no longer family." They were escorted outside while Emma followed the paramedics. Adrian drove behind the ambulance with Claire beside him. His stained sleeve remained wet, but he did not seem to notice. At the hospital, Thomas was taken into the emergency department. Emma stood in the hallway wearing the same blue uniform, staring at the closed doors. "I did this," she whispered. Adrian stood several feet away. Ryan caused the confrontation. "I lied to my father, to protect him, and he collapsed anyway." Claire sat beside Emma and took her hand. "He deserved the truth," Emma said. "I was too afraid to give it to him." Nearly an hour passed before a doctor came out. Thomas had suffered a severe cardiac episode triggered by stress and his already weakened condition. He was stable, but they needed to monitor him closely. Emma was allowed into the room alone. Thomas looked smaller beneath the hospital blankets. An oxygen line crossed his face, and machines measured every fragile beat of his heart. Emma sat beside him. "Adrian is not my fiancé," she said before fear could silence her again. "Ryan cheated on me. I found out yesterday. I thought if I canceled the wedding, you would believe I had failed." Thomas closed his eyes. "I asked Adrian to stand there so you could have one peaceful day. It was wrong. I should have trusted you with the truth." Her father reached weakly for her hand. "Did you think," he whispered, "I stayed alive for a wedding?" Emma's tears fell. "You talked about it every day. I stayed alive for you." She lowered her head against his hand. "I wanted to know someone would take care of you after I was gone," Thomas continued. "But somewhere along the way, I made you believe you were not enough on your own. You never meant to. People can hurt the ones they love with good intentions." Thomas asked to see Adrian. When Adrian entered, he had removed his stained jacket. The red wine had dried across the cuff of his shirt like a wound. Thomas studied him. "Why did you agree to this?" Adrian did not offer a polished answer. "Because she was about to trust a stranger with the most vulnerable moment of her life. I did not want that stranger to hurt her again." "And now?" Adrian looked at Emma. "Now I am no longer certain. I was only helping an employee." Emma's breath caught. Thomas noticed, but he did not smile. "Do not make promises because I am sick," he said, "and do not confuse protecting her today with loving her tomorrow." "I will not." Thomas looked back at Emma. "No more lies for me." "No more lies," she promised. The moment should have brought relief. Instead, Emma's phone began vibrating inside her purse. She almost ignored it, but the hospital room was quiet enough for everyone to hear. The caller identified herself as a fraud prevention officer from Emma's bank. A home equity loan for $120,000 had been approved using Emma's house as collateral. The funds had already been transferred through several accounts. Emma gripped the phone. "I never applied for that loan." The woman paused. "The application contains your social security number, identification documents, electronic signature, and confirmation from your registered email address. That is impossible. If the debt is not resolved, foreclosure proceedings may begin as early as Monday." Emma looked at Adrian, then at her father lying beneath the hospital lights. In less than 2 days, she had lost the man she planned to marry, the friend she trusted most, and the wedding her father had fought to see. Now she was about to lose the house she had spent 6 years of her life buying. And according to every document at the bank, Emma Carter had signed it away herself. The foreclosure warning remained in Emma's mind long after the call ended. For 6 years, that house had represented every double shift, every skipped meal, and every night she had chosen responsibility over rest. Ryan had not only betrayed her inside it, he had used her trust to turn the home into collateral for a debt she had never agreed to carry. Emma stepped into the hospital hallway before Thomas could see her panic. Adrian followed. "I can pay the loan today," he said. Emma turned so quickly that a nurse glanced toward them. No, it would stop the foreclosure process and replace one debt with another. "You would not owe me anything." That is exactly what people with money say when they do not understand what owing someone feels like. Adrian went silent. Emma pressed both hands against her temples. "If you pay it, everyone will say Ryan was right. They will say I lost one man and immediately found a richer one to clean up the damage. This is not about what people say. It is about what I will know." She looked through the glass panel in Thomas's door. "I spent years believing Ryan whenever he said he was helping me. He handled online accounts because I was tired. He opened mail because I was working late. He knew every password because I thought marriage meant I should not have secrets." Emma faced Adrian again. "I will not escape one man's control by stepping into another man's protection." Adrian absorbed the words without defending himself. "What do you need?" "A lawyer. Someone who can prove I did not sign those papers. I know someone. I will pay her. She is expensive. Then I will sign an agreement and repay her over time." Adrian nodded. It was the first offer he had ever made to an employee that came with boundaries he did not choose. By noon, attorney Evelyn Brooks arrived at the hospital carrying a leather briefcase and the focused expression of a woman who did not waste words. She specialized in identity theft, financial fraud, and property disputes. After hearing Emma's account, Evelyn asked who had access to the house. "Ryan lived there," Emma said. "Madison had a key." "Who knew where you kept your documents?" "Both of them." "Who managed your email?" "Ryan helped set up my financial accounts." Evelyn wrote something down. "Did he know your social security number?" "He filed my taxes last year." Adrian's face hardened, but Evelyn remained calm. Then this was not impulsive. Whoever did it prepared carefully. The bank agreed to pause the foreclosure review for 72 hours, but only if Emma submitted a formal fraud claim and cooperated with investigators. That afternoon, Emma left Thomas with Claire and went to the bank with Adrian and Evelyn. The loan officer placed a stack of printed documents on the desk. The application had been submitted 6 weeks earlier. It included a copy of Emma's driver's license, tax statements, property records, and an electronic signature that looked almost identical to her own. A confirmation call had also been completed. "You spoke to me?" Emma asked. A woman answered the number listed on the application and verified the information. "That was not my number." The officer turned the screen toward her. The number belonged to a prepaid phone. Emma examined the transfer records. Part of the money had gone to credit card companies. Another large amount had been deposited into a business account belonging to Reed Lifestyle Consulting, Madison's company. The final transfer had paid for a luxury vehicle deposit and 2 international airline tickets. Emma's stomach turned. They were planning to leave. Evelyn pointed to the dates. After the wedding, the meaning became clear. Ryan had planned to marry Emma, gain greater access to the property, and disappear once the stolen money was secured. Adrian's voice was low. "Can the bank reverse it?" "Not without evidence," the officer said. "From our system, Emma approved every stage." Emma stared at her forged signature. The letters leaned slightly to the right, just as hers did. Even the final curve in Carter had been copied. Someone had practiced. When they returned to the hospital, a group of reporters stood near the entrance. Emma stopped walking. "What are they doing here?" Evelyn checked her phone. A video from the church had been uploaded less than an hour earlier. The clip began with Adrian standing beside Emma. It showed Ryan accusing her of replacing him, then cut directly to Adrian defending her. The footage did not show the photograph proving the affair. It did not show Madison throwing wine. It did not show Ryan threatening Emma's house. The edited caption read, "Billionaire hotel owner replaces employee's fiancé at wedding." Another account posted a shorter version with the words, Maid leaves groom for billionaire boss. Emma watched herself on the screen. In the video, her silence looked calculating rather than terrified. "Who filmed this?" she asked. "Someone in the church," Adrian replied. "No, who edited it?" Neither Evelyn nor Adrian answered, because all three knew. Madison appeared in a live stream that evening. Her makeup was perfect, but she spoke through carefully timed tears. She claimed she had fallen in love with Ryan only after realizing Emma was involved with Adrian. She described herself as the woman who had saved Ryan from a dishonest marriage. Commenters praised her courage. Others called Emma a gold digger, an opportunist, and a servant who had seduced her employer. Some demanded Adrian resign from his company. By nightfall, Whitmore Hospitality's board had called an emergency meeting. Adrian attended through video conference from a private room at the hospital. Emma did not intend to listen, but the door remained partly open. "Release a statement denying any personal relationship," one board member said. "Say you attended as an act of charity." "Emma is not a charity case." "Then call it employee support." "That is worse." "Adrian, investors are asking whether you used your authority to pressure a domestic employee into a romantic situation." "She asked no such thing of me. The public does not know that." "Then we tell them the truth." "The truth is that you stood at a wedding as her substitute groom less than 24 hours after she discovered an affair." "That sounds reckless because it was reckless." Adrian's answer came without hesitation. "I will not protect the company by humiliating her." Emma stepped away from the door. An hour later, she found Mrs. Turner's number and called the Whitmore estate. "I need you to prepare my employment records." The housekeeper was quiet. "Are you leaving?" "Yes." "Mr. Whitmore will not accept that." "He does not have to accept it. I am resigning." When Adrian learned what she had done, he confronted her outside Thomas's room. "You are not losing your job because someone edited a video. I am not being fired. You are walking away under pressure. I am removing the pressure." "From me?" "From both of us." Emma kept her voice steady. "As long as I work for you, every kind thing you do can be called control. Every decision I make can be called obedience. I need to know who I am when I am not standing in your kitchen." Adrian looked as though he wanted to argue, but he did not. "Will you come back when this is over?" "I do not know." The honesty hurt them both. The next morning, Emma returned to her house with Evelyn. Adrian stayed at the hospital with Thomas at Emma's request. The locks had been damaged, but the door was still secure. Inside, the house looked unfamiliar. Ryan's clothes were gone. So were several small electronics and a box containing Emma's financial files. She moved room by room, documenting what was missing. In the bedroom, she removed the sheets and carried them straight to the trash. Behind the dresser, Evelyn noticed a folder wedged between the furniture and the wall. Inside were copies of Emma's driver's license, tax returns, the property deed, and several pages covered with attempts to imitate her signature. Dozens of versions of Emma Carter filled the paper. Some were too large, some leaned too far, others were almost perfect. Emma lowered herself onto the edge of the bed. "He practiced writing my name while living in my house." Evelyn photographed every page. "This may be enough to prove forgery." Emma's phone rang. "Ryan." Evelyn activated the recorder before Emma answered. "What do you want?" "To help you. You stole my identity. You cannot prove I submitted anything. I found the signatures." Silence followed. Then Ryan laughed. "You always were better at cleaning than understanding paperwork. What do you want?" "A reasonable agreement." He said Emma should stop cooperating with the bank and admit she had known about the loan. In return, he would help make some payments until the house could be sold. "Why would I sell it?" "Because you cannot afford this alone. I bought it alone. And I lived there for 2 years. I contributed. You paid for groceries 3 times. I improved the property. You broke the garage door." Ryan's voice sharpened. "If you fight me, you may lose everything. If you cooperate, we divide the sale money and move on. You want half the house after stealing against it? I want what I deserve." Emma looked around the room she had painted herself. "No, you want to be rewarded for almost destroying me." She ended the call. Evelyn saved the recording. "He did not confess directly," the lawyer said. but he revealed knowledge he should not have. Thomas was awake when Emma returned to the hospital. She sat beside him and explained the loan, the stolen records, and Ryan's demand. Her father listened without interrupting. "I pushed you toward him," he said finally. "No, Dad." "Yes. Every time I asked when you were getting married, every time I said I worried about leaving you alone, I taught you that any husband was safer than no husband." Emma held his hand. "I chose Ryan, but you ignored things because you thought marriage would make me feel better." She could not deny it. Thomas looked toward the window. "I thought a man would protect you after I was gone. I never imagined you would need protection from the man." Emma rested her head beside his arm. "I should have told you I was tired. I should have asked." For the first time, they spoke not as a sick father and the daughter responsible for saving him, but as two people who had loved each other imperfectly. Thomas told her he no longer cared whether she married Adrian or anyone else. "I want to see you keep your house, because it is yours. I want to see you choose your life without asking whether it makes me comfortable." Those words gave Emma something she had not felt since opening the bedroom door. Permission to stop performing strength and begin using it. That evening, Evelyn called with unexpected news. A security company had located an old cloud backup connected to a camera Emma installed after a neighborhood break-in. Ryan had removed the device months earlier, but some recordings had continued uploading before the battery failed. Emma, Evelyn, and Adrian watched the recovered footage in a hospital conference room. The first clip showed Madison entering the home while Emma was at work. She used her key, went directly to the filing cabinet, and photographed documents. The second showed Ryan placing Emma's license beside a prepaid phone while Madison read personal information aloud. Then they heard Madison practicing Emma's voice. "Yes, this is Emma Carter. I authorized the loan." Emma covered her mouth. The final recording came from the night before the application was submitted. Ryan and Madison sat at the kitchen table. "When we are married, she will sign whatever I put in front of her," Ryan said. "And if she does not, I already have enough to make the bank believe she did." Madison asked what would happen if Emma refused to sell the house. Ryan smiled toward the camera he believed was disconnected. "Then we take the money, let the debt destroy her credit, and leave before she understands what happened." The evidence was enough for Evelyn to contact the police and formally accuse both of them of identity theft and financial fraud. For one brief moment, Emma believed the nightmare was finally beginning to end. Then Evelyn opened a second file, recovered from the cloud account. It contained screenshots of messages between Madison and Ryan discussing a different plan. They intended to release a document showing that Adrian had offered money, housing, and career protection to Emma in exchange for pretending to be romantically involved with him. The document carried Adrian's signature. Emma looked at him. "Did you sign this?" Adrian's face changed. "I have never seen it before." Evelyn examined the page. "If the public believes this is real, the loan will not be the only investigation. Adrian could be accused of using his wealth and authority to coerce an employee." Emma had finally found proof that Ryan and Madison tried to steal her house. But hidden among that evidence was a weapon designed to make Adrian look like the most dangerous man in her life. The forged document sat on the conference table between Emma and Adrian like a loaded weapon. It claimed that Adrian had offered Emma housing, money, and professional advancement in exchange for appearing beside him as a romantic partner. His signature appeared at the bottom, so did Emma's. Neither of them had signed it. Evelyn studied the pages beneath the fluorescent hospital lights. "This is more dangerous than the loan application," she said. "The financial fraud damaged Emma. This document is designed to make Adrian look like he abused his power over an employee." Adrian's expression remained controlled, but Emma saw the anger and the tension of his jaw. "They planned this before the wedding," he said. "Possibly before Emma discovered the affair," Evelyn replied. "Ryan may have intended to use it as leverage if she challenged the loan." Emma looked at her forged signature again. For weeks, Ryan had not simply been living beside her. He had been building different versions of her life on paper, one where she borrowed money, one where she sold her dignity, and one where every protest could be dismissed as another lie. "What happens if they release it?" Emma asked. "The company may open an internal investigation," Regulators could become involved. Adrian could be accused of coercion. And because you were employed in his private home, the public will assume the power imbalance proves the story. Adrian leaned back. Then we release everything first. Evelyn shook her head. If you appeared too aggressive, it may look like a billionaire using lawyers to silence two ordinary people. They are criminals. Truth does not always arrive before the headline. Emma had spent most of her life believing the truth was enough. Work hard, pay what you owe, keep your promises. Eventually, people would see who you were. Ryan and Madison had taught her otherwise. A lie prepared carefully could walk into a room wearing evidence. The following morning, Whitmore Hospitality's board called another emergency meeting. This time, Adrian attended in person. Emma was not invited, but Evelyn insisted she remain nearby because the discussion concerned the forged agreement. The meeting took place in a glass conference room at the company's downtown headquarters. From the hallway, Emma could see men and women in dark suits seated around a table large enough to cost more than her first car. A board member named Martin Cole placed a copy of the document in front of Adrian. Until this is disproven, you need to step away from daily operations. Adrian did not touch the paper. On what basis? On the basis that the company cannot appear indifferent to allegations involving an employee. She is no longer my employee. That may make the situation worse. Critics will say she was forced to resign. Emma felt those words through the glass. She had resigned to reclaim her freedom. Now even that choice could be rewritten as evidence against Adrian. Another director spoke. We need a statement saying there was no romantic relationship and that the wedding appearance was a misunderstanding. It was not a misunderstanding, then call it emotional support. She is not a public relations problem. Martin exhaled. Adrian, you are acting as if protecting her reputation is more important than protecting a company employing 30,000 people. Adrian's answer came slowly. I am acting as if sacrificing one innocent person is not an acceptable method of protecting the rest. The room fell quiet. Martin pushed a prepared statement across the table. It described Emma as a distressed employee whose emotional state had caused her to misinterpret Adrian's professional concern. It denied any personal feelings and suggested she had independently constructed the idea of a relationship. Emma did not need to read every line. She understood what they wanted. They wanted Adrian to survive by making her look unstable. Adrian tore the statement in half. If the board wants me to take temporary leave, schedule the vote. Emma stepped away from the glass before anyone noticed her watching. Evelyn followed her toward the elevators. He is risking control of his company, Emma said. He is refusing to lie. Because of me. Because of the person he wants to be. Emma shook her head. That is exactly what frightens me. Everyone keeps making choices around me. My father wanted me married. Ryan wanted my house. Adrian wants to protect me. Even when the intention is good, I am still standing in the middle while other people decide what my life means. Evelyn pressed the elevator button. Then stop standing in the middle. Emma looked at her. Take the front. That afternoon, Emma called the bank investigator and requested a formal joint meeting with Ryan, Madison, their attorneys, and the fraud department. Evelyn arranged for law enforcement officers to observe from another room. Adrian offered to attend. Emma refused. This part belongs to me. They will attack you. I know. I can prevent that. That is why you cannot be in the room. Adrian studied her face. Emma continued before courage failed. If you walk in beside me, Ryan will say I only fought because a billionaire was holding my hand. Madison will say I replaced one protector with another. I need them to hear the truth from the woman they believed would never speak. Adrian did not like it, but he respected it. Then I will wait outside. The meeting took place in a private conference room at the bank. Ryan arrived in an expensive suit Emma had never seen before. Madison wore pale clothing and almost no makeup, carefully dressed to resemble someone fragile. Their attorney opened by accusing Emma of creating false evidence with Adrian's resources. Evelyn responded by placing the signature practice pages on the table. Ryan did not look at them. Madison did. The bank investigator asked whether either of them had entered Emma's house when she was absent. Ryan denied it. Emma remained calm. You lived there. That does not mean I stole anything. You knew where I kept my social security card. You told me. You knew my email password. We were engaged. You knew the answers to my security questions. Ryan leaned back. You trusted me. That is not a crime. No, Emma said. What you did with that trust is... Evelyn played the recovered security footage. On the screen, Madison entered the house, removed documents, and photographed them. Ryan appeared later with the prepaid phone. Madison's attorney objected, questioning whether the video had been altered. The bank's digital specialist confirmed the timestamps and cloud records were authentic. Madison's face lost color. Ryan remained composed. That proves nothing about the loan. Emma may have asked us to gather those papers. Emma looked directly at him. Why would I ask Madison to imitate my voice? The recording began. Madison's voice filled the room. Yes, this is Emma Carter. I authorized the loan. Madison's hands tightened beneath the table. It was a joke, she said. A joke involving my social security number? Emma asked. You were stressed about money. Ryan said you wanted options. Ryan turned toward Madison. Stop talking. The movement was small, but everyone noticed. Emma continued. The money went into your company. Madison looked at Ryan. He told me it was temporary. Ryan's lawyer interrupted. My client did not direct any transfer. Evelyn displayed the banking records. Ryan's personal credit cards had been paid from the stolen funds. The luxury vehicle deposit carried his name. The airline reservations were for him and Madison. Ryan's calm began to crack. You cannot prove who submitted the application. Emma placed the forged Adrian agreement on the table. What about this? Ryan's eyes moved toward the document before he could stop himself. Madison whispered, that was not supposed to be used yet. The room went still. Ryan turned on her. Be quiet. Evelyn spoke first. Used for what? Madison's attorney tried to end the meeting, but the bank investigator warned that leaving would be noted in the fraud case. Emma looked at Madison. You wanted people to believe Adrian paid me to pretend. Madison laughed nervously. You were already pretending. That document says he offered me a house and a promotion. I did not write it. Then who did? Madison's eyes moved toward Ryan again. He saw it. You made the call, Ryan snapped. Do not sit there acting innocent. The confession escaped before he understood what he had said. Madison stared at him. You told me what to say. Ryan realized the room was recording. His attorney grabbed his arm. We are done. But the damage had already been done. Madison stood. He planned everything. He said Emma would never notice because she was always working. He said after the wedding he could convince her to sell the house. Ryan rose from his chair. You wanted the money. You said it was already ours. Emma listened as the people who had once whispered behind her back began destroying each other in public. Madison admitted using the prepaid phone. Ryan admitted creating the email account linked to the loan. Each tried to reduce their role by increasing the guilt of the other. By the time their attorneys ended the meeting, the bank investigator had enough to suspend the debt permanently, while the fraud claim proceeded. Police officers waited outside. Ryan was questioned regarding identity theft, forgery, and conspiracy to commit financial fraud. Madison was taken to a separate room. Emma remained seated after everyone left. For days, she had imagined this moment as victory. Instead, she felt tired. Evelyn sat beside her. The foreclosure is stopped. Permanently? The bank will need final approval. But yes, the evidence is overwhelming. Emma stared at the empty chair where Ryan had been sitting. I loved him. That does not make you foolish. I gave him every piece of information he needed. Trusting someone is not permission for them to destroy you. Outside the bank, reporters were waiting. Someone had leaked news of the investigation. Emma could have left through a private exit. Adrian had already arranged a car downstairs. Instead, she walked through the front doors. Cameras turned toward her. Questions came from every direction. Did Adrian Whitmore pressure you into a relationship? Were you paid to appear with him? Did you resign because of harassment? Was the wedding staged for publicity? Emma stopped at the top of the steps. Evelyn quietly asked whether she was certain. Emma nodded. "My name is Emma Carter," she began. "I worked in Mr. Whitmore's home for nearly 6 years. I resigned by my own choice." The crowd quieted. No one paid me to appear at the ceremony. No one offered me housing or a promotion. The document being shared is forged. She described the identity theft without revealing details that might damage the investigation. She admitted the ceremony had not been legal and that Adrian had agreed to stand beside her after she discovered her fiancé's affair. I made that decision because I was afraid to disappoint my sick father. It was not a wise decision, but it was mine. A reporter shouted, "Are you romantically involved with Adrian Whitmore?" Emma paused. The answer mattered more than she expected. "I do not know what we are." Several reporters began speaking at once. Emma raised her voice. "But I know what we are not. I am not a helpless employee he purchased. He is not a billionaire who bought my loyalty. He offered help. I set the conditions. And when I told him to step back, he did." The statement spread across news networks within minutes. For the first time since the wedding, the public heard Emma's voice without Madison's editing or Ryan's accusations. At Whitmore headquarters, the board postponed its vote. Adrian met Emma outside the hospital that evening. "You should have told me you planned to speak. You would have tried to prepare me." "Yes, that is why I did not." Despite everything, he almost smiled. Thomas's condition had worsened during the day. Doctors warned that his cancer and cardiac weakness were placing enormous stress on his body. Emma entered his room alone. Thomas was awake, though his voice had become faint. Claire had shown him the news conference. "You looked terrified," he said. "I was, but you stayed." Emma sat beside him. "For most of my life, I thought being strong meant making sure no one else worried." Thomas reached for her hand. "That is not strength. That is loneliness wearing work boots." She laughed through her tears. After a while, Thomas asked for Adrian. Adrian came into the room but remained near the door. "Come closer," Thomas said. Adrian approached the bed. "I heard what you told your board. You should not worry about that. I am dying. Worry is one of the few hobbies I have left." Emma lowered her head. Thomas looked at Adrian. "My daughter has served people her entire life. Her family, her employers, men who did not deserve her." Adrian listened without interruption. "If you care for her, do not become another person she has to serve." "I will not. Do not make yourself the center of her recovery." "I understand." Thomas shook his head. "No, you understand business. This is harder. You may have to stand close enough to help and far enough away to let her choose." Adrian looked at Emma. "I can do that." Thomas closed his eyes. "Then do it without asking for credit." Later, in the hospital hallway, Adrian told Emma the truth. "I care about you." She said nothing. "I do not know whether what I feel grew from guilt, anger, admiration, or something deeper. I only know that returning to the mansion without you felt wrong." Emma looked exhausted rather than surprised. "That is not enough. I know. I cannot move from Ryan's house into your life and call that healing. I am not asking you to. I need work that is mine, money I earn without you, a life where no one wonders whether I agreed, because you signed my paycheck." Adrian's expression tightened, but he nodded. "What do you want from me? Time and distance?" "Yes." He accepted both. There was no dramatic embrace, no promise under hospital lights. Adrian simply stepped back and let Emma walk toward her father's room alone. That night, Emma returned to her house for the first time, without Ryan's threat hanging over it. The police had removed several boxes as evidence. The rooms felt empty, but they felt like hers again. She expected Adrian to be there. He was not. For a brief, painful moment, she wondered whether distance had been easier for him than she expected. Then she noticed an envelope on the porch. Inside was an official letter from the bank confirming that foreclosure proceedings had been canceled and Emma's ownership rights would remain protected while the criminal case moved forward. There was no check, no expensive gift, no contract demanding repayment, only a handwritten note from Adrian. "This house was your choice. What comes next must be your choice too. I will not stand in front of you again. When you are ready, I would be honored to stand beside you." Emma pressed the letter against her chest. For the first time, a man with enough power to control her future had chosen not to use it. But inside the hospital, Thomas Carter was running out of time, and Emma did not yet know whether her father would live long enough to see her begin a life built on freedom instead of fear. The letter Adrian left on Emma's porch did not ask for an answer, and that was the reason she read it every night. For the first time in years, no one was demanding that she make a decision before she was ready. Ryan had demanded trust. Her family had demanded sacrifice. Even fear had demanded that she keep moving when she was exhausted. Adrian asked for nothing. Emma used the silence to begin again. Within weeks, she enrolled in a nursing assistant program at a community college outside Chicago. She found part-time work at a senior care center, where the hallways smelled of coffee, antiseptic, and the lavender lotion many residents kept beside their beds. The pay was lower than what she had earned at the Whitmore mansion, but the work felt different. She was no longer polishing rooms that powerful people barely noticed. She was helping older patients eat, walk, and remember that they were still human, even when their bodies had become unreliable. During the day, Emma worked. At night, she studied at the kitchen table in the house Ryan had nearly stolen. The criminal case against Ryan and Madison continued. Their attorneys delayed hearings and blamed each other, but the bank officially removed the fraudulent debt from Emma's name. The house was hers again, not because Adrian bought it back, but because Emma had fought for it. Adrian kept his promise to stay away. He did not send flowers. He did not offer tuition money. He did not appear at her workplace with reporters or security guards. For almost a month, Emma heard nothing from him. Then one evening, she looked up from the coffee machine at a diner near campus and saw Adrian sitting alone in a corner booth. He wore a plain dark sweater instead of a tailored suit. There was no driver waiting outside and no assistant beside him. Emma approached cautiously. "How did you find me?" "Mrs. Turner mentioned the diner. I waited until I believed enough time had passed for this not to feel like pressure." "You could have called. You asked for distance. So you came in person?" "I am still learning." Emma almost smiled. Adrian looked at the empty seat across from him. "Would you have coffee with me?" She remained standing. "As what?" "Not my employee. Not my false bride. Not someone I am trying to rescue." He paused. "Just Emma Carter. And you?" "Just Adrian. I am not very experienced at being only that." Emma sat down. "Then we start slowly." "Slowly sounds reasonable." "That means no expensive gifts." "Understood. No private jets. I was not planning. No buying the diner because you disliked the coffee." Adrian looked into his cup. "That rule may be difficult." She laughed for the first time in weeks. Their relationship did not begin with another dramatic kiss or a promise made beneath hospital lights. It began with coffee that tasted burned and conversations that lasted until the diner employees began stacking chairs. Adrian told Emma about growing up in a family where affection was usually replaced with achievement. His father praised profits, discipline, and silence. When Adrian's mother died, he inherited everything except the ability to forgive himself for not being there. Emma told him how often she had confused being needed with being loved. Some evenings, Adrian waited outside her class and walked her to her car. Other nights, Emma refused his company because she needed to study. He never complained. When the fence around her house began leaning after a storm, Adrian arrived in old jeans with tools he clearly did not know how to use. "You are holding the hammer backward," Emma told him. "I own construction companies. That is not the same as knowing how to build anything." 3 hours later, the fence stood crooked but secure. Emma left it that way. Thomas returned to her house after the doctor said there was little more the hospital could do. His bedroom faced the backyard, where he could see the fence Adrian had helped repair. His health declined quickly, but he remained alert enough to notice the changes in his daughter. Emma no longer apologized when she was tired. She stopped pretending to be cheerful when she was afraid. She allowed Claire to help with meals, medication, and laundry. One morning, Emma entered Thomas's room wearing her white training uniform for the first time. He looked at her for a long moment. "You look like you finally found where you belong." Emma adjusted the collar nervously. "It is only a training program. No, it is a beginning. Adrian arrived later carrying 2 tickets to an old Cubs charity game. Thomas was too weak to attend the stadium, so Adrian arranged for them to watch a private broadcast from the living room. He brought no doctors, no expensive equipment, and no photographers. He simply sat beside Thomas, ate terrible microwave popcorn, and listened as the older man complained about every bad call. Near the end of the game, Thomas handed Adrian the silver pocket watch from the false wedding. "I believe this belongs to you now." Adrian shook his head. "I still have not earned it. That is why I am giving it to you." Thomas glanced toward the kitchen, where Emma was preparing his medication. She has spent her life walking behind everyone else, cleaning up what they leave behind. "I know. If you love her, do not ask her to walk behind you. I will not. And do not walk in front of her unless she asks you to clear the way." Adrian looked down at the watch. "What should I do? Keep pace." Thomas died 2 weeks later. Emma was holding his right hand. Claire held the other. Adrian stood near the doorway, close enough to be present and far enough not to take a place that belonged to family. Thomas's final words were not about marriage. He looked at Emma and whispered, "You were always enough." Then his breathing slowed, and the room became still. The grief that followed did not arrive all at once. It lived in small things: the untouched coffee mug, the empty wheelchair, the baseball game playing in a room where no one complained about the score. Adrian never told Emma how to grieve. He brought groceries when she forgot to eat. He sat on the porch when she did not want to speak. When she asked to be alone, he left without making her comfort him for leaving. Months passed. Emma returned to school and completed her clinical training. On the day she graduated as a certified nursing assistant, she searched the auditorium for Thomas even though she knew his chair would be empty. Then she saw Adrian in the last row. He had come alone. He did not bring business partners, cameras, or a bouquet large enough to block anyone else's view. He simply stood when her name was called and applauded with tears in his eyes. That evening, Emma returned to the small house that had witnessed her greatest betrayal and her father's final days. Adrian was waiting on the porch. He wore no suit. In one hand, he held Thomas's pocket watch. In the other was a small ring box. Emma stopped at the bottom of the steps. "Adrian." He did not open the box immediately. "1 year ago, I stood where another man was supposed to stand because you needed someone to help protect a lie." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Tonight, there is no lie, no audience, and no one you need to protect." Adrian stepped closer. "I am not here to rescue you, Emma Carter. You already saved your home, rebuilt your life, and found your own way forward." Then he lowered himself onto one knee. "I am only asking whether you will let me walk beside you for the rest of it." Adrian remained on one knee beneath the porch light, holding the small ring box while Emma stood at the bottom of the steps with tears gathering in her eyes. For 1 year, he had proven that he could stay without controlling her, help without purchasing her gratitude, and love her without asking her to become smaller. Still, Emma did not answer immediately. She walked up the steps and stopped in front of him. "If I say yes, I am not giving up my job. I would never ask you to. I may go back to school for nursing. I hope you do. I am not moving into that mansion and leaving this house behind." Adrian glanced toward the modest home she had nearly lost. "This house is not something you should outgrow. It is proof of who you were before anyone came to stand beside you." Emma's lips trembled. "And I will never be your employee again." Adrian smiled. "I have learned that lesson." Only then did Emma look at the ring. It was simple and elegant, without the enormous diamond people would have expected from a billionaire. "You could have bought anything," she whispered. I did not want the ring to speak louder than the question. Emma thought of Thomas's final words. "You were always enough." She placed her hand in Adrian's. "Yes," she said, "but we keep walking at the same pace." Adrian slipped the ring onto her finger. No one behind. No one ahead. Their real wedding took place 6 months later in the backyard of Emma's house. Adrian's board expected a grand hotel ballroom filled with politicians, investors, and cameras. Emma's relatives expected something even larger once they learned how wealthy the groom truly was. Emma refused both. She wanted the place that had witnessed her deepest humiliation to witness something honest. The old fence Adrian had repaired was covered with white flowers. Folding chairs filled the lawn. Claire hung warm lights between the trees. And Mrs. Turner brought food from the recipes Emma's mother had once written in an old notebook. There were no reporters. There were no business logos. There was only family, a handful of trusted friends, and one empty chair in the first row. Thomas's navy tie rested across the back of it. His silver pocket watch lay on the seat beside a framed photograph of him smiling at a Cubs game. Emma wore a simple white dress. It was not the dress that had remained inside the church dressing room during the false ceremony. She donated that 1 month earlier. This dress belonged to a different woman. When the music began, Emma stood alone at the end of the aisle. Claire offered her arm, but Emma gently shook her head. "I need to walk this part myself." She stepped forward without lowering her eyes. For years, Emma had believed a bride needed someone to give her away. But she did not belong to her father, Ryan, Adrian, or any other person. She belonged to herself. Adrian waited beneath a wooden arch, visibly nervous despite having negotiated billion-dollar contracts without hesitation. When Emma reached him, he did not immediately take her hand. He waited. She offered it freely. Reverend Collins began the ceremony by acknowledging that the couple had once stood in a church under false circumstances, surrounded by fear and betrayal. "But truth," he said, "does not always begin in perfect places. Sometimes it begins when two people stop pretending." In his vows, Adrian did not promise Emma a painless life. He promised never to use money as a substitute for listening. He promised that her work, ambitions, and independence would never become threats to his pride. He promised to stand close when she needed support and step back when she needed room. "I will not save you," he said, his voice breaking slightly, "because loving you taught me that you were never waiting to be saved. I will respect the life you built before me and help protect the freedom you fought to reclaim." Emma's eyes filled with tears. In her vows, she admitted that she had once believed love meant sacrifice without limits. She had confused exhaustion with loyalty and silence with patience. "I promise to love you without disappearing inside your life," she said. "I will tell you when I am afraid, when I am angry, and when I need help. I will not punish you for the damage another man caused, but I will never again ignore the voice inside me to keep someone else comfortable." When Reverend Collins pronounced them husband and wife, Adrian looked at Emma before moving closer. "May I kiss you?" The question made her smile. Yes. Their kiss was not a performance, a test, or a desperate attempt to protect anyone's feelings. It belonged only to them. A year after the wedding, Emma completed the next stage of her nursing education. She continued working at the senior care center and later helped establish a program for low-income patients who needed home support after leaving the hospital. Adrian offered funding, but Emma insisted the program operate through an independent board. She did not want it to become a project controlled by his company or associated only with his name. Together, they also created a legal assistance fund for workers facing wage theft, identity fraud, and financial abuse by partners or family members. The fund was named the Thomas Carter Independence Project. Emma did not appear at events merely as Adrian Whitmore's wife. She spoke as its co-founder and as a woman who understood how easily trust could become a weapon in the wrong hands. Ryan and Madison eventually pleaded guilty to charges related to identity theft, forgery, and fraud. Ryan received a prison sentence, while Madison agreed to testify in exchange for a reduced punishment. Emma attended neither sentencing. Claire asked whether she wanted to hear what they had said in court. "No," Emma answered. "They already took enough of my time." That was her real victory. Not seeing them punished. Not marrying a richer man. Not proving to Madison that she had been chosen. Emma's victory was reaching a morning when she could remember the betrayal without wondering what had been wrong with her. Nothing had been wrong with her. Ryan betrayed her because of his character, not because of her uniform, her long hours, or her devotion to her father. One evening, Adrian found the family photograph that had shattered on the night Emma discovered the affair. The glass had been replaced, but a small crack remained near the corner. "You missed a spot," Emma said. "I left it." "Why?" Adrian placed the frame beside their wedding photograph. "Because repairing something does not mean pretending it was never broken." Emma looked at the two pictures. In one, she stood beside Thomas before illness had weakened him. In the other, she stood beside Adrian in the backyard of the home she had purchased with 6 years of sacrifice. "The crack does not ruin it," Adrian said. "It proves it survived." Emma rested her head against his shoulder. Once, she believed she needed a false groom to survive the worst day of her life. But the man who stepped into that lie had never truly rescued her. He raised his arm when the wine came toward her face. He stood beside her when the truth became painful. Then, when Emma needed to find her own strength, he stepped back and allowed her to do it. That was why she eventually chose him. Not because he was a billionaire, not because he could replace Ryan at the altar, but because he never asked Emma to become less powerful so he could feel like the stronger person in the room. Sometimes the greatest betrayal does not destroy your future. It exposes the life you were never meant to keep. And sometimes the person who enters your story as part of a desperate lie becomes the first person who teaches you that real love never asks you to surrender yourself in exchange for being chosen. What do you think? Was Emma right to preserve the ceremony for her dying father, or should she have revealed the truth immediately? Could you forgive a best friend who betrayed you in your own home? Share your answer in the comments. If this story brought you something meaningful, press 1. If it did not, press 0. And subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next story about betrayal, courage, and the moment an ordinary person finally realizes how much they are truly worth.